In December of 1993, DC Comics released a 64-page special issue of The Batman Adventures, the comic spin-off of the popular and acclaimed Batman the Animated Series. The special featured art by Bruce Timm, co-creator of the animated series, and was co-written by Timm and Paul Dini, the writer responsible for some of the best episodes of the animated series, including the Emmy Award-winning Heart of Ice. This Batman Adventure special was titled Mad Love, and it would go on to win both the Eisner Award and the Harvey Award for Best Single Issue, and be recognized by fans, critics, and comics professionals alike as one of the greatest Batman stories ever published. Mad Love not only firmly established the Batman the Animated Series version of Batman as its era's definitive take on the character, it confirmed that the appeal of that version of Batman reached far beyond the young target audience of the TV series. It also served notice that Timm and Dini, who up until then had worked almost exclusively in television, deserved to be considered among the best comics creators as well, and it bestowed an undeniable legitimacy upon Timm and Dini's most significant original contribution to the world of Batman, the character of Harley Quinn. By now, the legend of how Harley came to be is fairly well known. She started out as a member of the Joker's gang in the animated series episode Joker's Favor, for my money, the best Joker episode that show ever did. She was supposed to be a one-off character, but her memorable costume design, playfully sarcastic personality, and the pitch-perfect vocal performance from Arlene Sorkin that brought her to life made Harley an instant favorite of the creators of the show and its fans. She was brought back again and again, and became the breakout character of Batman the Animated Series. Mad Love adds depth and dimension to Harley by not only showing us how she and the Joker became such an inseparable pair in the first place, but by revealing how truly toxic their pairing is. That revelation begins in the book's opening scene. The Joker and Harley attack Commissioner Gordon in his dentist's office. Batman arrives to save the day, and Harley manages to temporarily incapacitate him with a blast from one of the dentist's nitrous oxide canisters. "That's a real gasser, huh, Mr. J?" Harley asks with a laugh, and the Joker turns on her and screams furiously, "I give the punchlines around here, got it?" Batman saves Gordon, but Joker and Harley get away. We catch up with them at their hideout, where Harley is prancing around in a nightie trying to get the Joker's attention, but the Joker is only interested in plotting his next Batman-killing scheme. He turns on Harley again, this time blaming her for his failure to kill Gordon at the dentist's office. It was Harley's fault for tipping Batman off by sending him a set of chattering teeth to taunt him, Joker says. Seeing how preoccupied Joker is with crafting the perfect death scenario for Batman, Harley suggests, why not just shoot him? But as Dr. Evil's son Scott will also discover a few years after this, simply shooting the hero is not the act of a true supervillain. You just don't get it, do you, Harley? You don't. Joker briefly considers returning to an old plan involving dropping Batman into a water tank to be devoured by piranha, a scenario he named Death of 100 Smiles, but then he remembers why he abandoned this plan to begin with. Piranha mouths are turned downward in permanent frowns, and despite his best efforts, Joker has been unable to change that. I guess piranha are immune to that laughing fish formula he came up with a few years back. I don't know. Harley's determined efforts at seduction continue until Joker finally tosses her outside and slams the door shut. Coming frustratingly close to a moment of clarity, Harley considers the mess that is her life. In her words, she is a certified nutso wanted by the law in 24 states and hopelessly in love with a murderous psychopathic clown. But instead of placing blame for her circumstance where it clearly belongs, with the Joker and to a lesser extent herself, she focuses her ire at Batman, who, she tells herself and her pet hyenas and us, has been coming between her and the Joker since the beginning. We transition to a lengthy flashback depicting how Harley and the Joker met. Harley, then going by her given name, Harleen Quinzel, arrives for her first day of work as a doctor at Arkham Asylum. Her boss, Dr. Leland, suspects her of only wanting to work at Arkham in order to gather material so she can write a salacious memoir featuring some of the asylum's high-profile inmates. And Leland is correct. That's exactly what Harley wants to do. That's why she's initially drawn to Arkham's most infamous resident, the Joker. Almost immediately, that professional interest becomes something else. One night, the Joker slips undetected from his cell and leaves a flower on Harleen's desk with a note asking her to come see him. They begin meeting in one-on-one therapy sessions, where the Joker reveals that he was an abused child. His father was angry and violent, and the only happy memory the Joker had of the man was of the time they went to the circus, and the clowns made his father laugh. Drawn in by his tragic past and by the trust he shows by revealing it to her, Harleen falls in love with the Joker. As part of that love, she acquires the Joker's hatred of Batman. When the Joker escapes from Arkham and is returned bruised and battered by Batman, Harleen decides it's time to break him out for good. She dons her full Harley Quinn costume for the first time, storms Arkham, and escapes with the Joker to begin their shared life of crime. Though she admits, as the flashback ends, it's not the life she dreamed of. There's a funny full-page panel showing Harley's fantasy, happily baking cookies while their children squabble, one complaining about being poisoned by the other, with a graying, bifocal sporting Joker sitting nearby, calmly telling the kid, "Well, you just poison him right back." Determined to kill two birds with one boxing glove fired from a novelty handgun, so to speak, Harley sets out to kill Batman and prove herself to the Joker in the process. She takes another look at the plans for the death of 100 Smiles, has an epiphany for how to make it work, and lures Batman into a trap by pretending to turn on the Joker. With a timely assist from a Joker robot, Harley tranquilizes Batman. When Batman wakes up, he's in an abandoned aquarium, chained up and dangling headfirst over a piranha tank. Harley explains that it's the inverted hanging bit that brought the whole thing together. From Batman's perspective, it will look like the piranha are smiling. She's turning their fishy frowns upside down. Okay, technically she's turning Batman upside down to make their fishy frowns appear to be going the other way, but that doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, now does it? She seems to have Batman wrapped up pretty tight, but then Harley starts to muse about how after Batman is dead, she and the Joker will finally be able to settle down together, and Batman sees his opening. He openly mocks Harley's dream of having a cozy, loving retirement from crime with the Joker. The Joker doesn't love anything except maybe himself, Batman tells her. He had you pegged as hired help from the moment he saw you. Batman pushes on, shattering Harley's delusion of special intimacy with the Joker by repeating to her a version of the tragic backstory the Joker told her during their first therapy session at Arkham. Some of the details are different from the story Harley heard, but the point is still made. The Joker didn't open up to her. He lied to earn her trust. He manipulated her. Harley is angry and shaken, but Batman doesn't stop there. He tells her that even if she goes ahead with her plans and kills him now, the Joker will never believe her. If the piranha devour Batman, there will be no body, no evidence, and the Joker is too arrogant and too dubious of Harley's competence to ever accept that she succeeded where he has failed so many times before. So Harley calls the Joker, who races to the scene. When he arrives, she is thrilled to see him and rushes over to embrace him. He coldly backhands her, knocking her to the ground and telling her that killing Batman is his right, not hers, that the death of Batman will only be a masterpiece if he, the Joker, achieves it. Joker also cruelly dismisses Harley's revised version of the Death of 100 Smiles plan, telling her that the fact she had to explain the upside-down piranha frowns part means that the joke doesn't work. Harley grabs a swordfish to defend herself. Joker grabs the fish away from her and uses it to swat Harley, sending her crashing back through a window. She falls to the street far below and is seriously injured. The cops reach the scene and Detective Montoya finds Harley, who is muttering about how it was all her fault because she didn't get the joke. Back inside the aquarium, the Joker turns his attention to Batman. At first, he seems ready to just let Batman go, but then he thinks better of it and decides to just shoot him, the thing he yelled at Harley for even suggesting earlier. Batman dodges the gunshot and manages to free himself while the Joker makes a run for it. Their chase ends with the two of them standing across from each other atop an elevated train as it rushes through the city. Batman taunts the Joker by telling him that Harley almost had him back there He was groggy from being drugged, upside down with the blood rushing to his head, chained, without his utility belt. He says to the Joker, "I knew my only chance was convincing her to call you. She came a lot closer to killing me than you ever did." And then he gives the knife a final twist by calling the Joker Puddin' with a savage grin. The Joker loses his temper, attacks, they fight, and the fight ends with Batman uppercutting Joker off the train and into the top of a passing smokestack, which doesn't mean he's dead. In fact, we cut to sometime later and a TV playing a news broadcast telling us that no body was found, so it's possible the Joker may once again resurface when we least expect it. As the newscast plays, Harley, bandaged from head to toe and being pushed in a wheelchair, is locked in a cell in Arkham. Through thought balloons, she tells us that from now on, she's through with the Joker. Now she sees him for what he really is. Now she's determined to move on, to heal, to serve her time, and to start her life over again once she gets out. Her old boss, Dr. Leland, pops in to say, "Well, Harley, I hope you've learned your lesson." Not super professional, coming from a psychiatrist. "You used to be so strong and confident," Leland continues. "Then you became so dependent on the Joker. You gave up everything for him and got nothing back in return." How did that feel? Dejected, Harley starts to say it felt like, and she turns and notices on the night table by her bed a single rose, with a note from the Joker telling her to get well soon. Harley smiles, her dejection and her determination to turn over a new leaf instantly swept away. And she finishes her sentence, "It felt like a kiss." There's a lot to admire about Mad Love, but the true genius of what Dini and Tim are able to do here is the way they use the simple, somewhat cartoonish tone and style of the Batman adventures, which is derived from the tone and style of Batman the Animated Series, to tell a story that is deceptively dark, emotionally complex, and mature. It's presented with the accessible, engaging, whimsical, borderline absurd trappings of a typical Batman Adventures or Batman Animated Series story, with casually included outlandish details like Joker and Harley's attempt to kill Commissioner Gordon at the dentist's office, which feels like it could have been plucked straight out of a late Silver Age comic book, Harley's comical daydreams of married life and parenthood, a machine gun-wielding Joker robot, and a climactic death trap that would fit nicely within the world of the Adam West Batman TV show. But beneath those silly elements, Mad Love is about a woman trapped in a relationship with a violent criminal who physically and psychologically abuses her, a relationship from which she is unable to free herself. That's pretty grim stuff for an issue of a comic that spun off from a weekday afternoon children's cartoon show. But it doesn't feel grim when you read it, at least not at first. There are a few shocking moments early on, Joker suddenly and furiously turning on Harley for her "what a gasser" joke, and for suggesting that he just shoot Batman, but for the most part, the underlying darkness of the story reveals itself gradually, like a slow-falling shadow. Mad Love is the definitive Harley Quinn story, but it's also one of the best of all Joker stories. In the hands of Dini and Tim, the Joker is simultaneously madcap and malevolent, like the warped funhouse mirror reflection of a Looney Tunes character. As in many of the greatest stories to feature the character, the Joker of Mad Love is, from a certain angle, very funny. Short-tempered, thin-skinned, petty, preoccupied with trifling details, oblivious to his own blatant hypocrisy. But considered from another point of view, say that of Harley, those same qualities go from amusing to chilling. The narcissism of the Joker, the constant gaslighting and belittling, the abrupt and explosive violence. Harley is subjected to all of this and more. But Dini and Tim don't make it that easy for us. They show us a version of Harley who is sympathetic, but not innocent. She enters into her relationship with the Joker intending to use him, to wring from him enough material to write a best-selling book. Perhaps it's her cynicism or her ambition that blinds her to the Joker's act, that leaves her vulnerable to his exploitation. Whether or not that's the case, the fact that Harley is not pure of heart when she meets the Joker doesn't make her any less his victim. She is still the target of the Joker's abuse, and we still root for her to break free. That's why that ending hits so hard. For a moment, it seems that Harley has traveled beyond his reach, not just physically, but emotionally. She's seeing and thinking clearly, telling herself that her relationship with the Joker is over. But then she sees the flower and the note, and we're right back where we started. He has been in her cell, and he is still in her head and in her heart. There is nowhere Harley can go that the Joker cannot get to her. It's quite a feat telling a story this dark, this mature, with such a light touch. It's all the more impressive when I compare it to some of Bruce Timm's more recent attempts at showing off his mature side. The 2016 animated adaptation of The Killing Joke and the 2017 Batman and Harley Quinn direct-to-video animated feature come to mind, both of which amp up the sexuality while dialing down the intelligence and wit. Mad Love has a bit more overt sexuality than you might expect from Batman the Animated Series, specifically the scene of Harley in her red nightie playfully but relentlessly trying to get the Joker to fuck her. But there's nothing that would alarm most level-headed parents of younger readers, and in fact, the "don't you want to rev up your Harley" scene survives essentially intact in the TV adaptation of Mad Love, which originally aired in January of 1999. The TV version, produced as an episode of the New Batman Adventures, the redesigned revival of Batman the Animated Series that ran concurrently with Superman the Animated Series, is well done and impressively faithful to the original comic. The story isn't softened or brightened up. It remains an entertaining but quietly devastating portrait of a woman in an abusive relationship she is unable or unwilling to leave. In some small ways, the animated version even improves on the comic. A brief early flashback depicting Harley as a college student trading sexual favors to her professors for good grades is dropped, and Harley's final line is rewritten to be a bit smoother without dulling its impact. It's one of the best episodes of the New Batman Adventures, which isn't saying much, since that iteration of the animated series produced more than a few truly rotten shows. But believe me, I'm not trying to damn the animated Mad Love with faint praise. It's genuinely good. It's the original comic, though, that has stood the test of time, and will continue to do so, I think. Even now, 30 years since its first publication, it holds up and retains its ability to surprise me, captivate me, draw me in, and break my heart. I was not a fan of Harley for the longest time. I found her annoying. I thought she undermined the character of the Joker, and I resented her popularity. It was only when I reread Mad Love in my 30s that I realized that Harley doesn't diminish the evil of the Joker. She deepens it and amplifies it. He doesn't just kill people. He destroys lives. He is cruel and as corrosive as the acid that squirts from that flower on his lapel. I also realized, finally, that Harley is a character who stands on her own merit and is deserving of my attention and my respect. Funny and clever, tragic but never pathetic, she's evolved over the years from a memorable sidekick to an emancipated standalone villain to a complex and fascinating anti-hero. Harley Quinn started to grow up when Batman the Animated Series and the Batman Adventures grew up. In the pages of Mad Love. One of the best Batman stories ever.